welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and this is our List of the Week video series. I guess this is episode 2. Thank you for all the lovely comments I saw on the last video that was out there, which was nice. The video didn't do super well, but I am really enjoying the series myself, so I'm going to continue on because I think this is really good, and hopefully I'm helping lots of people learn how armies work or an army they might think about getting in the future. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this video. Go back and watch the last one. We'll see what you all think. So this week, I've decided to pick a Sylvaneth list for List of the Week. It won the largest event of the week. It was the Polish event with about 60 players, and it's played by a guy called Tomasz. Tomasz is arguably one of the better players in the world. Really fantastic player. And he was running Sylvaneth. Now, we're going to talk about the Sylvaneth list and Sylvaneth as an army. This is a non-traditional Sylvaneth list. If you were to ask me, Rob, what Sylvaneth list would you generally expect to see at being run at an event or being played at an event, it wouldn't be this. It would have elements of this, but normally I would expect to see Alariel. I would expect to see Alariel. I'd expect to see lots of Kurnoth hunters or Kurnoth hunters in a list generally. I'll always expect to see Belthanos in a list, and probably a Warsong Revenant as well. So those are the things I'm generally expecting to see, and this has elements of it. It has a Warsong Rev and it has Belthanos, but it doesn't have all of it. And I think this is also a complement to everything that we saw released in the summer for those Scourging Ground updates from Games Workshop, because they had such a massive impact on list writing and also giving different armies some different tools to play with. So if we take a look at the list, we can see that he was running the Battle Formation Wargrove of Burgeoning, and then he was running the Manifestation Law Aetherwrought Machineries and running Master Paths and Restless Energy as battle tactics. And we're going to go through those again in a moment. If you don't know Age of Sigmar, you write down 2 battle tactics, which is how you score your secondaries in a game. Master Pass and Restless Energy, I think, might be the same ones that we actually saw last week as well. And then he's running a Scourging Ground Drycha Hamadreth. So Scourging Ground means that it is one of those alternative war scrolls that we saw released in the summer. This means that Drycha has 2 war scrolls that you can choose from, although realistically only has 1 because the other one is terrible. And then a Scourging Ground, a unit of Revenant Seekers. Then there's a reinforced unit of Spiterider Lancers, a unit of Tree-Revenants, Belthanos, a Spirit of Durthu, a Branchwych, and a Warsong Revenant. Now, one of the things that you'll see here, and one of the things that's very different to the list we talked about last week, where last week's list was only 2 drops, we talked about the fact that we really thought that the reason that list was 2 drops was because what it was trying to do, it was manipulating who got the choice to go first. It was trying to be as few drops as possible to give you the powerful choice on who goes first in a turn. Now, previously, there was no real other strategy than that. Maybe you would want more drops because you could counter deploy to someone, but with the update that we saw in the summer, if you now have more regiments than your opponent, you get a re-roll once per turn on the priority roll, which is pretty important. And seeing as this army is like a big castle combat army that doesn't mind if you go over and try and fight it because it's then going to hit you with everything, maybe it's in a pretty safe and defensive position that it doesn't mind not going first. Very different to what we saw with Sinesh last week, which was a much more kind of fragile army, or elements of the army were fragile. This one is a little bit more tanky and so is ready for a fight. So it doesn't mind if you try and get it on the first turn. Okay, so let's talk about some elements of this before we kind of look at the units in more detail. And the first thing we're going to talk about are the battle tactics again. So Master of the Paths is super interesting because, again, if you don't know how battle tactics work, there are 3 stages to them. You score 1 in a turn, then you score the next one in another turn, next one another turn, if you fulfill the requirements. The first one, cut off the head. You complete this battle tactic at the end of turn if the enemy hero has been destroyed during the battle. Then it sees the pass. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. There are more friendly units in neutral territory than enemy units. Now, this is a really difficult one because sometimes some battle plans don't have neutral territory, but there is a second part to this. If there is no neutral territory in the battle plan you are playing, you complete this tactic at the end of a turn if there are no enemy units within friendly territory, which is difficult to do for sure, because obviously your opponent wants to run into your territory, grab objectives. Maybe they want to do battle tactics themselves. Then the third part of this is Envelop and Strangle. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. If at least 3 different friendly units are each wholly within 9 inches of a different corner of the battlefield, and only one of those corners is wholly within friendly territory. No more than one of those units can have been set up this turn. So that's close to impossible, I'd say. It's very challenging while you're also trying to hold objectives, and you need a lot of units. You need at least 3 units to be available or alive at either the end of the game or somewhere near the end of the game, because this can be earlier scored on turn 3. But because the first part of this is kill an enemy hero, probably it's later. Now, one of the strategies that we talked about last week is Master of the Paths is a slower battle tactic. It doesn't force you to maybe start trying to do these things early, because the trigger, killing a hero, is something that's going to come up maybe naturally. Excuse the pun. And you're going to try and, make that thing happen. So what this means is you're going to be able to manipulate the points in that you do have scoreable battle tactics, but maybe they're scoreable later. The reason that this is an advantage is that you can be the underdog early in the game. You can score less points early in the game, be the underdog, get more command points because you're the underdog, and also maybe potentially also stave off the negative effects of a double turn if you go far enough behind, because that happens as well. But in addition, you get to obviously be the underdog on the battle plan as well, which could also change the shape of how the game is playing. So there's a lot of strengths to not scoring, and Master of the Paths gives you the opportunity to not score. The other battle tactic is Restless Energy. This is very simple. Your opponent, this is grabbing objectives. So you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control an objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. This one is basically how you play Warhammer anyway. Then you have Invasive Species. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control every objective within enemy territory. If there are no objectives within enemy territory, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn. And if you control every objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. And then the last one, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control every objective on the battlefield. So hopefully, and I'm sure many of you are like, Rob, I know how the battle tactics work, but some people might be watching who they're new to it. They might not know. So this is really good if you kill everything. A fray, the first one, is easy to score. Your opponent holds something. That's great. You go take it. That's really positive. Holding a bunch of them is fine as well. And also, you're leaving your territory because that's kind of the goal. So this is what's good about Sylvaneth. What's good about Sylvaneth is Sylvaneth's main strengths, or one of their strengths, is their ability to be kind of everywhere on the board. A bit like Stormcast. Stormcast have access to an inordinate amount of teleports, deep strikes, and popping around the board. And Sylvaneth have something very similar, although it is obviously more difficult to manage because it's all based around Wildwoods. So you choose 2 battle tactics, you're trying to choose both those things. If you don't know, there are 6 battle tactics cards to choose from, although Restless Energy is very commonly picked. Master of the Paths is also pretty common, but so is Seek and Destroy, or whatever it's called, the one where you've got to kill 3 treasures, so that one. So now we know what the army wants to do. What the army wants to do is it wants to, early as it can, maybe try and kill a hero, but it also wants to take objectives off their opponent and generally hold objectives. That's what it's trying to do, and everything else will kind of fall into place if it can do that. So that's its goals. And then in addition, we've also got manifestations that were chose. And the manifestations, even though Sylvaneth have their own manifestations, the list chose Aether-wrought machineries. This gives you access to cogs, pendulum, and quicksilver swords. So pendulum is super easy. I don't think we need to go into this too much. It just does damage. That's its job. It does damage to units. So it's pretty good for that if you want to cast it. And there's quite a lot, unlike last week, we have a lot of casting values in this army. We have a Warsong Rev that's a 2 cast. We have a Drycha that's a 1 cast. We have a Branchwych that's a 1 cast. And we also have we have Durthu, who's got a magic item that's also going to make them a wizard when they're near woods. So we've got like 4 or 5 casting levels in this army. 5 casting levels in this army. So you've got the opportunity to just be like, yeah, cool, I'm going to put a damage dealing spell out on the board via pendulum, which is decent. Then we've got Chronomantic Cogs. Now, this is the one that's going to be pretty impactful to this army. It has 6 health, 6 up save. That bit's not really important. The bit that's important about it, and you set it up wholly within 12 inches of the caster, so it's got quite a big range, is you have the ability once per turn in your hero phase called the Mechanisms of Time. If there are any friendly wizards within 3 inches of this manifestation, you pick one of the following effects. To the start of your next turn, you can re-roll charge rolls for friendly units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this manifestation. Now, this is an army that teleports and can deep stroke. Well, it could teleport and charge. Well, yes. It can also run and charge with Belthanos as well. So the ability to reroll those charges means that you can have a more you can have a better chance of succeeding at those charges. That's pretty obvious, which is good because you are doing most of your damage via combat. So you want to be in those combats. So you don't want to fail those charges. The other version of this, where you can decrease the flow of time until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target friendly wizards while they're wholly within 12 inches of this manifestation. Now, this also applies to shooting as well. So what's really strong about this is you've got -1 to hit for your wizards, which is going to include, like I say, Drycha, a great combat piece, situationally Durthu, great combat piece, your kind of fragile Warsong Revenant, and your Branchwych. That's what you want. You don't mind those being -1 to hit. And having Durthu, a really good combat piece, in combat but -1 to be hit, mean it's going to take and tank a lot more than you would think. -1 to hit is super good. Quicksilver Swords is the other manifestation, just to double check and make sure I've got it right. Yeah, manifestation. And again, this is just a damage dealing spell, which ward saves cannot be made against. So you've got 2 damage dealing spells and you've got this amazing utility piece in the Chromantic Cogs. So you get to choose whether or not you're going to get extra charges or you're going to be more defensive. So you've got a lot of options here. I think this is one of the things that we're going to see from Tomash and generally from this list. It's going to give you lots of choices. I promise you next week, I'll bring you a more brutal, aggressive, not as thinky list. I don't know why I've chosen 2 very thinky lists. The first one being Slaanesh and this one as well. But I like them both. Okay, let's go look at the unit, shall we? And kind of, well, first we'll look at the battle traits for the army. I think that'll be the important thing. I'm using a website called Age of Index, where you can find everything that you need for Age of Sigmar on here. It's a fantastic resource created by Tobias. Super good. Okay, so if you play in Sylvaneth, you have 3 battle traits. The first one is Walk the Hidden Paths, which is once per turn army in your movement phase. You can pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is not in combat and is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Waken Wildwood, and you can basically move them to another Wildwood more than 9 inches away from enemy units, wholly within 6 inches of a different friendly Wildwood. So it's quite limited in that it's wholly within 6 inches. You still have to teleport 9 inches away, but you can only teleport near a Wildwood. Now, there's going to be a couple of ways that we're going to be able to improve this. Number 1, Belthanos is going to be able to turn a piece of terrain into a Wildwood. Number 2, if you increase how many pieces of a Wildwood you put down, it's also going to increase the size. So a 1-piece Wildwood is going to be wholly within 6 inches, but a 2-piece Wildwood is going to be wholly within 9 inches, and a 3-piece Wildwood is going to be wholly within 12 inches. So there's quite a big range once you start getting up to those 3 pieces, but they are difficult to deploy. We'll talk about that as we kind of look at those in a moment. You've got Endless Growth at the end of any turn, and this is pick a number of friendly Sylvaneth units wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Waken Wildwood, and you can heal D3 to each target. End of any turn does mean the end of every turn, and D3 on a bunch of monsters or multi-wound models is really good. Why have we not seen a lot of small infantry units? Well, you don't get anywhere near as much res as you get something like Soulblight Gravelords, and instead you get heal D3 at the end of every turn to multiple big monsters. So, of course, you're going to take that. That's really good. And then you've got Strike and Fade, which is once per turn at the end of any turn, but it's only once per turn army. You pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is in combat, so it's got to be in combat, and wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Awakened Wildwood, or 9 inches or 12 inches, depending on the size of the Wildwood. And remove that unit from the battlefield and set up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units, and wholly within 6 inches. So, in your turn, well, in your turn and your opponent's turn. In your turn, you can teleport a unit 9 inches away. In your opponent's turn and your turn, if a unit's in combat, you can just pop them out of the danger area. Then you can heal them D3 as well. Next turn, one of the biggest problems I find, especially when I run monsters, is they're in combat a bit longer than I want them to be, because I obviously want to just pop a rally on them. Just pop a rally, get 3 or so wounds back. Now I can definitely teleport them out. Then I can do a rally. Then I can heal D3. On average, I should be putting 5 wounds back onto a monster in just that single turn. That's pretty effective to make it so that I can fight and carry on and carry on with the day. So it's pretty impressive, I would say. But you do have to be really conscious of where you're fighting, when you're fighting, and picking your battles, which is why it's going to be a more difficult army to play with. Okay, so you have your spell lore. There are 3 spells to choose from. The first one, the unlimited spell, is Tree Song. This lets you set up a Wildwood wholly within 24 inches, or it lets you heal wildwoods somewhere. Now, what's interesting about this wildwood compared to the first wildwood that you put down, how many times can I say wildwood in this video? The first wildwood that you put down for this army, because when you start the game, you deploy a wildwood, but that wildwood has to be 3 inches away from objectives and 3 inches away from terrain. A little important note, because a lot of people miss this. I caught this. I literally played an Age of Sigmar event last weekend. What happens is the new objective markers that you get in the General's Handbook, those circles, that is not an objective. The objective is a 40 mil circle in the middle. So you can put your wildwood right up to the edge of those objective rings, right? You don't have to be 3 inches away from the objective ring, or you can move right up to the objective ring, which I saw someone struggling to do the other day, and I felt quite bad for them. I was like, no. Like, it's just the circle in the middle is the objective. The other bit is not the objective. So that's worth talking about. Okay. So when you are setting up these wildwoods, you can be an inch away from all enemy units, which is pretty important, and other terrain features. And it has to be wholly within 24 inches. And you can have up to 3 different locations for wildwoods on the board. Or if you've already got 3 on the board, you can heal 3. Now, you've got to be really careful about how to use this. And again, that's why this list requires a lot of thinking. Because if you put a wildwood down and it's not in a very useful spot, your opponent can just ignore it. And then they don't destroy it, which means you now are in a position where you can't put any more wildwoods down in the places you want to put them down. So you've got to be careful about that. Dwellers Below is just a spell that does more damage to the more models you have in a unit. It's good if they've got lots of models in a unit, or if you want to try and just ping some mortal wounds, but it doesn't really matter. And then Wrathful Spirits is cast on a 6, and you pick a Awakened Wildwood wholly within 18 inches. Until the start of next turn, you add one to the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Sylvaneth units where they're wholly within 6 inches of the target. So effectively, you use Tree Song as an aggressive deployment. You spring up a tree or a bunch of forest right in front of them. You then pick that tree or that wildwood, and you say, right, if I'm near that, I'm going to be +1 rend to my units. Great. And then you're going to start teleporting units or even moving units near those wildwoods and start fighting units. +1 rend is obviously fantastic, especially when we start looking at some of these units, which we'll do so in a moment. So those are all the kind of like key overlapping abilities that you get, but you have to start, before you start looking at any units, at the Awakened Wildwood and what it does. So the Awakened Wildwood has got 1 piece, it's got 8 health, a 4-up save, and a 5-up ward save. So that's very survivable for like a terrain feature. Very, very survivable. If it's got 2 pieces, it goes up to 10 health. If it's got 3 pieces, it goes up to 12 health on a 4-up save, 5-up ward save, which can also be healed via an unlimited spell, Tree Song. An unlimited spell means each wizard can attempt to cast it. So this could be on like 1 life out of 12, and you could potentially bring this up to like, what are there, 4 casters in the army? Like straight back to full life, which is pretty amazing. It's very, very good. As I said, when you set up the first terrain feature, or the first Awakened Wildwood, it has to be 3 inches from all objectives and other terrain features. And then there's a little blurb here about growing woods, which describes if you have a larger, each piece that you add 2 to the health characteristic, and you add 3 inches to these special abilities, which is either teleport to them, teleport away from them, or heal. So that's what the Wildwood does. But the Wildwood is pretty key. The Wildwood also has some other features. Specifically, it's got Vengeful Forest Spirits, where once per turn in any combat phase, you can pick each enemy unit within this unit's terrain. This terrain features combat range. On a 4+, you do D3 more, so it's not that impactful or important. And then you've got a passive called Overgrown Wilderness, where enemy units are visible to friendly Sylvaneth units, even if every model in that enemy unit is within 1 inch of a terrain feature, because the wildwoods are obviously obscuring. And then in addition, the range characteristic of friendly Sylvaneth units, range weapons, is not halved, while every model in that friendly unit is within 1 inch of this terrain feature. So you're also able to put down additional obscuring pieces of terrain, which is a keyword that you have for making it so your opponents can't see you outside of 3 inches. Now, if you have the fly keyword, or if you're a monster, you're not going to be able to benefit from that. And many of the units in here are monsters, so they're not going to be able to benefit from obscuring. But some of the units, or they're flying, so there's not a lot of opportunity to make a ton of use of this, but it's still there and it's pretty good. And if you have a different experience with the Wildwood, let me know. So the first unit that we're going to look at is Belthanos. Belthanos is pretty much de facto auto-include in every Sylvaneth army that I've seen. It's got 14 health and a 3-up save and moves 12 inches. You can see if we take a look at the damage output is pretty okay. Now, later on, we are going to be able to get +1 to wound, and we can also get +1 rend in this army, but still not super impressive from the damage, but is okay considering this is really a utility piece because all the strengths that Belthanos brings for 350 points. You would maybe hope for a little bit more damage, but sometimes he can do some okay damage. Like, you potentially have got 5 attacks at damage 3 on the glaive, and you could potentially get 4 more attacks at damage 3. So, 9 attacks at potentially damage 3 is really not too bad. Okay, so we're going to look at the abilities that we've got. And the first ability we've got is the Nature Etheric, which is once per battle start of any turn, you pick a terrain feature within 6 inches of this unit to be the target, and for the rest of the battle, that target gains the Place of Power terrain ability. This means that you're going to be able to pick this unit, and you're going to be able to, at the start of each hero phase, potentially do a heal, make stuff obscuring, or do an unbind. Those are all really powerful abilities. But importantly, it also counts as a friendly awakened wildwood for the purposes of endless growth, walk the hidden path, which is the teleport, strike and fade, which is when you run away. Now, this is really great because it adds a second wildwood to the board immediately. You get the one that you deploy for free, and you get a second one. And you got the capacity to summon 2 more. So you got a lot of places to teleport to, a lot of places that you can give additional rend to. It's really powerful. You've also, in your charge phase, got the Knothi Warhorn, where you can pick up to 3 friendly Sylvaneth units to be the target, and for the rest of the turn, each target can use charge abilities, even if they used run abilities in the same turn. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but Belthanos moves 12 inches. If you use a CP to make that an 18-inch run and still charge, that's super fast. Your opponent has to, every turn, say to themselves, a unit can move 18 inches and charge. I can't leave like a little wizard out that I need for support. I can't leave a terrain on a terrain unit, an objective unattended. Like, I really have to be conscious, or even your terrain feature. That's what I was trying to say. Your terrain feature, like, some are really important, like Gloomspite gets one. Just can't leave that unattended because that's an incredible distance, which is helped by another ability that Belthanos has, called the Rhythm of the Chase, where once per turn in any combat phase, you can pick an enemy unit in combat to be the target, roll a d3, and on a 2+, you can inflict an amount of more damage on the target equal to the roll, then you can remove this unit from the battlefield and set up again on the battlefield within 1 inch of the target. So you can basically do a backflip. Imagine there's a really long, strung out unit. You charge the front of it, you roll a 2+, you can be on the other side of that unit. You could have traveled easily like 8-12 inches, and obviously because you can flip your base, you could be really far, which also gives you the opportunity to be somewhere else, to be hitting a unit your opponent thought was safe, and effectively Fast and the Furiousing a bug at your opponent, which is amazing. That's a super fun ability. And not only do I think Belthanos makes it in the list because Go Fast is really fun, but also Go Fast do a backflip is also, I think, super, super fun. So that's why I think Belthanos sees this. But it's almost an auto-include in many ways, even more so than Alarielle. So in these non-Alarielle lists, Belthanos is just the first pick all the time. So the next unit we're going to look at is the other kind of major utility piece in the Warsong Revenant. Warsong Revenant has got 7 health, 5-up save. It's not really a combat piece, although, 5 attacks, 3 saves, run 1 damage, D3. It could do something one day. The important factor is that for 200 points, you have a 2-cast wizard, right, that can fly, which is bad because you can't benefit from obscuring, but does have a 6-up ward save. But it's the utility that it brings, which is amazing. First up, we have the passive Wildwood Revenants. Add 1 to unbinding rolls and banishment rolls for this unit, while it's wholly within 6 inches of any awakened Wildwoods. +1 to unbind is really important because now you've got great anti-magic defense. AOS really only has a couple of spells for each spell lore, sometimes only one that's really the one that someone wants to cast. It's that big impactful one, or maybe it's a manifestation that they really want to stop. They really want to cast, and that's also going to really help them out like cogs for this army, which means +1 to stop them is pretty good. It's very, very strong. The other passive that we got is friendly Sylvaneth units have a 6-up ward save while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit, and subtract 1 from ward rolls for enemy units while they're within 12 inches of this unit as well. Now, obviously, a ward save on all of your big monsters is great, and I think that's something we can't ignore, although I don't personally love a 6-up ward save. I never really even think about it. But the -1 to enemy ward saves, going from a 5 to a 6, is a massive mathematical leap. That's fantastic. That's really wrecking the math on their side. The survivability of many units is predicated. You're even paying points for the fact it's got a 5-up ward save. So taking that away, most units have a 5-up ward save, or even the occasional 4-up ward save units that we have. Taking that away and moving it to a 5, or 5 to a 4, a 5 to a 6, sorry, means that you're going to do some mad damage, which is really good. And then you've also got a unique spell called Unleash the Swarm of Spites, where you pick a friendly Awakened Wildwood wholly within 18 inches of this unit, pick 3 visible enemy units within 9 inches of that terrain feature, and then roll a d3 for each target on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage. Now, that's not a lot of mortal damage, but chipping away a little bits can be quite scary. And if there's a hero with a couple of wounds left for some reason, you've got the opportunity to just snipe it off, bracket a monster. There's some real opportunity to do a bunch of different things, reduce down the objective control of a unit. There's some really interesting stuff here. But obviously, don't forget, you can also summon Wildwoods from this, which is pretty key. And you also can be casting some damage dealing spells in Quicksilver Swords or in the Pendulum, or you're going to be able to, be making units -1 to hit or giving reroll charges out. So you've got a lot that this Warsong Rev can be doing, as well as reducing down the ward save of units that you want to slam. Talking about wanting to slam units, we'll almost get to you, Durthu, you angry, angry boy. We're going to talk about the Branchwych, another character leading a regiment. Branchwych really is a 1-cast wizard, and the reason it's here is because of a once-per-turn enemy combat phase ability. If this unit wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Awakened Wildwood, you can pick a Sylvaneth unit wholly within 12 of this unit to be the target, roll a dice on a 3+, the target has strike first for the rest of the turn. So your opponent now has got some big choices to make. They see Durthu, who's in a wood, who might be near cogs with -1 to hit. And they're like, oh, I need to get rid of Durthu. He's also on the objective, but he's -1 to hit. And if I charge him on a 3+, Durthu's going to get strike first, or Belthanos is going to get strike first. I don't really want that to happen. So you can effectively use this as making your opponent have to make bad choices. And even if they do make the choice and you do get to strike first with Durthu, then you're not mad about it either. Okay, before we do talk about Durthu, I want to quickly go and talk about the battle formation that we have for this army, because this army is also rocking a battle formation. And the benefit that you get for the battle formation is called Stirring Life, which is once per turn at the end of any turn. You pick a friendly non-hero Sylvaneth unit within 3 inches of a terrain feature to be the target. If the target has a health characteristic of 1, return up to 3 slain models. If the target has a health characteristic of 2 or more, roll a dice, then pick one of the following. Heal X, or return a number of slain models up to the dice roll. That's going to be pretty important when we look at the Spiterider Lancers or the other bug riders, because you could potentially bring back a very expensive bug because they're 5 wounds each. So, a third of the time you're going to be able to do it, which is pretty good. So yeah, that's not bad. I just thought I'd bring that up because there is also more healing, but that's only going to affect the Spiterider Lancers. Now, we are going to talk about Durthu and Drycha. We'll talk about Durthu first. He's pretty easy. He's got 14 health and a 3-up save, only moves 5 inches. Fine. That's not a problem. We're going to be able to heal 3 at the end of each turn, potentially do rallies. We've got lots of heals that we can put on this guy. And he's got control value of 5, so we're good on that front. It's got 5 attacks that do damage 2 at 12 inches, which is pretty good from Verdant Blast. But really, it's the Guardian Sword that we want to be talking about, because the Guardian Sword is going to be able to, in a moment, get +1 to wound. We're going to be able to get +1 rend for this unit, and we also can get +1 hit. And then we can also add an additional attack, giving us 5 attacks, 2s and 2s, rend 3, damage 5. That's crazy. Potentially 25 damage from just that attack alone, and you've also got the massive Impaled Talons, which you've got crit mortals. If you find a monster, FYI, this could be rend 4. Takes a spell, takes an item, takes a bunch of things to do. So Durthu has, and this is for 320 points, Durthu's problem, speed. What you have in this army is teleports. You also have run and charge, via Belthanos as well. So you can be move 11 and then charge. Reroll charges thanks to cogs. There are ways to improve this. So you got a passive, Wrathful Guardian, add 1 to hit rolls to this unit's combat attacks where the target's within 3 inches of Awakened Wildwood. And you've got Titanic Jewel, pick an enemy monster in combat with this unit, roll a dice on a 3+, subtract 1 from the attacks characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. So you can have a monster charge into Durthu, and you can make it so that he's -1 to hit, thanks to cogs. It's got strike first, thanks to Branchwych. And now the opponent is -1 to its attacks characteristic. But that's not where we end, because Durthu in the list has also got both a artifact of power and a heroic trait. The heroic trait is Spellsinger, where while this unit is within combat range of an Awakened Wildwood, if this unit is a wizard, you can add 1 to the casting rolls for the unit. Pretty nice. And if this unit is not a wizard, it has Wizard 1 instead. And then you got Glamour Weave, which is the artifact where each phase you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, and 1 save roll for this unit. So when a unit has got 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, I don't know about you, but I'm going to miss twice and not wound twice somehow. I'm going to roll 2 1s to hit, 2 1s to wound, and I'm going to be only hitting them 1 time. Rerolling 1 hit and 1 wound roll out of 5 attack or 4 or 5 attacks means that Durthu is going to do a lot of damage all of the time, and it's going to be very aggressive. Also, 1 save roll is pretty good, especially if there's a big clutch, big damage hit coming in to Durthu. So that's strong. Being a wizard is also strong. Throwing that in the mix is pretty sweet. Now let's talk about Drycha. Drycha, like Durthu, is also a big combat piece in this army. Move 10 with run and charge, very fast. It's got 12 health, 3-up save. It's also 1 cast wizard, so can drop wildwoods, add rend, put manifestations out, bunch of different stuff. If you just take a look at Drycha's profile, just before you do anything else, Drycha's got like 9 damage against a 3-up armor save. Give +1 rend, that goes up to 12 damage, which is pretty impressive. We can give them +1 to hit from all-out attack. Now we're up to 14 damage against a 3-up armor save. That's pretty scary. And that's with +1 to hit. Slashing Talons also have crit 2 hits, which is effectively another +1 to hit. So the number is actually even higher. Okay, so if we take a moment to look at the passive we got Strength from Spite, which ward rolls cannot be made for damage points inflicted by this unit's attacks. No ward saves, so now you're just punching through stuff, and there are no ward saves available. Very, very punchy. And then you've got an ability, which is really strong, and this is, I think, one of the clutch bits of the list, but it's super hard to do. It's a reaction to your opponent declaring a charge ability for a unit within 18 inches of this unit. Your opponent must pick one of the following. Avoid the swarm, subtract D3 from the charge roll. In addition, if your opponent rerolls that charge roll, subtract D3 from that roll. This means if you decide you want to charge at me, I can redeploy away, minimum of 1, maximum of 6. And then my opponent can now, might have to, if they choose to, take D3 away. So the minimum is 2 that you're going to be taking off these units, but the maximum, right? The maximum is going to be 9. So a redeploy plus this can mean that you started 3 inches away and now you're 12 inches away from that unit. That's pretty good. Now, obviously, you can choose not to do the D3, and instead, you can do charge through the swarm, where you subtract 1 from hit rolls for that unit's attacks for the rest of the turn, and add 1 to hit rolls for attacks that target that unit for the rest of the turn. So now I could have it so that you're trying to charge at me. I could be -1 to hit already. Now I'm an additional -1 to hit. I can get strike first, and I hit you with +1 to hit. There's a lot of bad choices for my opponent in what you can tell them that they are going to suffer, and here they have to make a choice, which is pretty good. And then we have, so this is an amazing control piece. Scourging around Drycha is an actual interesting war scroll, whereas the other one wasn't. So, and then is also super killy. So you should also put this on the table as well. And then in your hero phase with a 6 to cast, Drycha's got a unique spell called Twisted Spirit Song, where you pick a visible friendly Sylvaneth unit holding within 12 inches unit to be the target. Until the start of your next turn, you add 1 to wound rolls for targets' combat attacks, including those made with companion weapons. Now, this is pretty unique. You don't normally get that. So +1 to wound is very good, especially combat companion weapons. In addition, if the target is not Kurnothi, and there are no Kurnothi units in here apart from Belthanos, you can add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the target's melee weapons. So that's how you're going to get +1 attack on Durthu, or +1 attack on a bunch of riders on your Spite Swarms, or your Lancers if you wanted to. So Drycha's killy, casting some spells, reducing down charges or making it so their charges are less effective, and is got a massive force multiplier. So if you kind of put that into, you know, Drycha plus the Warsong Rev together, in an aggressive format, you can be making it so that a unit is +1 attack, is adding +1 to their wound rolls, and the enemy unit is -1 to their ward saves. That's pretty punchy. That you can kind of like, but you could, and you can dictate when that happens or where that happens, although you do have to cast a spell. So let's start looking at some of the units. Although Sylvaneth is an army that's really based around having heroes that are super impactful. The first one, the Squadron around Revenant Seekers. This is a unit of 3. Only a unit of 3 was taken in this list, I'm pretty certain. Revenant Seekers, yeah, it was the Spiterider Lancers that got reinforced. So the Revenant Seekers is 3 models with 5 up save, and they have 4 health, sorry, a 4 up save and 5 health each, which, as we said earlier, that battle formation to be able to bring a model back means a third of the time you can bring one of these back if they're dead. So that's pretty nice. They have okay combat profile. I wouldn't say super good, but move 12, run and charge means they are as scary as Belthanos in being able to just hit a certain portion of the board. And now we know that the army doesn't want to have a very aggressive tempo because of the battle tactics card. What you can just do in your first turn is just sit on a couple of objectives, like if you want, wait, then your opponent can move around, and then when you want to, you can just sling some really fast units at your opponent into one portion of the board, or do a teleport, re-roll some charges and just hit one section of the board. Then you can strike and fade away, hit another section of the board if you want to. Pretty good. It's got a good combat profile, but it also has another ability called Lamentary Life Energies, where once per turn in any hero phase, you can pick a visible friendly Sylvaneth unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target, roll a dice, and on a 3+, the target has a 5-up ward save for the rest of the turn. So if you did want to go in with a unit, let's pick Durthu, or if you wanted to pick Belthanos, you can just be like 3+. There you go. Belthanos now has a 5-up ward save in addition. Go in, charge, fight. The reason, obviously the 5-up ward save would be good to last until the end or until the start of your next turn. But this is really good because last till the end of the turn gives you enough time to do strike and fade, where at the end of the turn, you can teleport that unit out. So you can move 18 inches, hit something, get hit back, teleport away, heal, rally, do it again. Very aggressive, very fast, very, very fun. And then you have the Spiterider Lancers. So when you really tool up a unit of Spiterider Lancers with +1 to wound, you can give them +1 rend. You can also give them an extra attack on only the lances. Then you start to do some pretty interesting stuff to this unit. Also, you can +1 to hit if you want to. You do some pretty interesting stuff. You get 40 damage against a 3-up armor save, and even 10 damage against a 2-up armor save, or 18 damage against a 4-up, which is pretty nice. And this is not taking into account the extra attack that you're going to have on the lance, and not taking into account the +1 damage, actually. So you're actually doing 18 damage against a 4-up save, 27 damage against a 4-up save with the Spiterider Lancers, with a Spiterider unit. That's scary. They're moving 18 inches potentially with run and charge. They then are having a 5-up ward save. There's 30 health on a 4-up armor save, 5-up ward save. They hit everything. They fly. They then transport back, and they start again. That's pretty crazy. But in addition, in any combat phase, if this unit charges turn, roll a dice. On a 3+, this unit has strike first for the rest of the turn. So you also have the capacity to get strike first on this unit as well. And at the end of any turn, heal 3 to this unit. So you've got heal 3. You've got Wildwoods doing healing. And also you've got the battle formation to do healing as well. So you can return a lot to this unit. And all of that for only 380 points. Very, very cool. And lastly, you've got the Tree-Revenants. Tree-Revenants is a cheap 90-point unit that's got an inbuilt deep strike. Once per turn in your movement phase, if this unit is not in combat, remove the battlefield, set up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. It's not going to do any damage when it gets there, but what it is going to do is it's going to constantly grab an objective of your opponent and be annoying. Deny maybe a terrain feature, zone a piece of the board, maybe fight a small unit at the back of the board, 2 attacks each, 10 attacks. Probably not though, with only 5 up save. Their job is to score points, or even just stand on a normal objective just outside your territory. You've got all of your Sylvaneth, castled up around your wildwood and your terrain feature you've turned into wildwood, and then you just put another unit, this unit on an objective, and then your opponent has to then trade. They have to go and kill them or get them or run away with them, at which point you can countercharge. You can, in your turn, move 18 inches. There's a bunch of options that you've got effectively to make it so your opponent, that you could trade with these really nicely. So that's everything from the list. Those are all the different units. I think I've covered everything. Yeah, those are all the different units and everything you can do with this list. And as you can see, Tomasz went 5-0 with it. I got to say, I feel like this is a very techy, very challenging army to play. It will take a lot of time to play. It's not one of those simple, easy armies. But if you wanted a challenge, if you wanted something that gives you a lot of choices, you can make a lot of mistakes. I played Sylvaneth maybe the first 6 months of AOS 4. It's really fun. I found it to be very engaging because where you put the wildwoods was super clutch. That was super important. Where you teleported stuff to, or when you could teleport stuff to, that was also important as well. And that was before it got a bunch of its most recent updates, although they were kind of last year. They got the ward save on the wildwoods. You got the soggy Drycha, which I think is so good for this list. You've had some points reductions. But even then, I was really enjoying the army when it was considered to be not very good. And I think I went 4-1 at events, pretty decent. So you can, you can do a lot with this army. It's challenging. It's thought-provoking. It's it's definitely challenging, but you can have fun with it. This one's going to be really hard to play with, but let me know what you think. And I hope you're enjoying these list tech videos. And if you want to help support what I do, then you can join me on Patreon, which would be really good. So I'm kind of hopefully making some, I'm definitely making some content on there soon. So we're going to start putting battle reports up there in the new year. But for now, it'd be super fun if you fancied supporting what I do and helping me out. So thanks very much. Thanks for watching all my videos. And let me know what you think about this list or any of the list series or any list you'd like to see me cover in the future. Thanks for watching, and thanks to all my current patrons. I'll see you soon. Bye.